Hello, my little monkeys. This is Teacher Robert, and today we are on our episode 002. Why we shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. Real English for real life. One conversation, one idea, better English. One more time, good morning, my little monkeys. Welcome to the English podcast with Teacher Robert. I'm so happy that you're here. Remember that this podcast is a place where we talk about real life while improving our English naturally. No grammar lessons, no boring textbooks, just real conversations about topics that matter. Together, we will explore ideas, discover new vocabulary, and become more confident English speakers. So, wherever you're right now, maybe you're having breakfast, or maybe you're on your way to school, or you're simply relaxing. Thank you for spending these minutes with me. I'm Teacher Robert, and let's begin. Today, we're going to talk about something that almost every English learner experiences, making mistakes. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to say something in English, but you stayed quiet because you were afraid of saying it incorrectly? I think we have all been there. Sometimes we worry so much about making mistakes that we forget something very important. Mistakes are not the opposite of learning. Mistakes are part of learning. Think about when you were a baby. Did you learn to walk the first time that you stood up? Of course not. You fell. Then you stood up again. And you fell again. And you kept trying. Nobody looked at you as a baby and said, well, I guess walking isn't for you. No, obviously not. Everyone smiled. Everyone encouraged you as a baby to keep trying. So why are we so hard on ourselves when we learn English? Why do we expect ourselves to speak perfectly from the very beginning? Every person who speaks English fluently today once was a beginner. They forgot words, they pronounced things incorrectly, they mixed up grammar, they felt nervous, they made hundreds, maybe thousands of mistakes. But here is the difference. They didn't stop. Every mistake became a lesson. Every conversation made them a little bit more confident. Every day they improved just a little. And little by little, they became fluent. So today, I would like to give you permission. Permission to make mistakes. Because every mistake tells me something wonderful. It tells me that you're trying. It tells me that you are learning. It tells me also that you're growing. And I'd rather hear you speak in perfect English than perfect silence. Remember this. You don't become confident before you speak. You become confident because you speak. You don't wait until you are perfect. Speak today, learn today, smile today, and trust the process. Because one day you'll look back and you'll realize that those mistakes were actually helping you because the English speaker that you always wanted to be, you are now. Okay? Today, let's check the vocabulary that we listened to in this conversation. Mistake. Remember that mistake is something that is not correct, but helps us learn. Try. Try is a verb. To make an effort to do something. Improve. To become better little by little. Confident. Feeling sure about yourself. Fluent. Able to speak naturally and easily. Encourage. To give someone the confidence to continue. This is a wonderful word because great teachers, parents, and friends always encourage us to keep learning. Some expressions that we listened to today were Practice makes progress. I really love this expression. How many people say, practice makes perfect? But I don't completely agree. Nobody's perfect. What practice really gives us is progress. And progress is exactly what we're looking for. Before we finish today's episode, I'd like you to think about this. What's one mistake you've made that actually helped you learn something important? Maybe it wasn't English. Maybe it was in sports. Maybe it was in life. Take a moment and think about it. Sometimes our greatest lesson comes from our biggest mistakes. Thank you so much for spending these minutes with me. I hope that today's conversation reminds you that learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try. Remember that every conversation is another step towards better English. I'm Teacher Robert, and this is the English Podcast with Teacher Robert. Real English for real life. One conversation, one idea, better English. Take care of yourselves, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Goodbye, my little monkeys. Have a great day.